In this video, I will show you exactly why, no matter how much you study or work, you feel like you are getting poorer and poorer, and I will prove to you how the global system was designed for this to happen to you. And calm down, this is not that boring economist talk, nor the political cheerleading fight you see on television. What we are living through today is a historic moment where the purchasing power of the middle class is being crushed all over the world. Right now, I dove into real data from Brazil, from the United States to China to connect the dots and explain to you in a simple way the rules of this game that no one told you about. Before we go to the explanation, do a reality test with me. If you stopped working today, for how long would you be able to maintain your current standard of living? Comment down here the time, days or months, or just type panic if the answer is scary. I want to see if we are all in the same boat. A lot of people vent saying, look, I am not rich, but I don't go hungry either. I take crowded buses or get stuck in traffic. I am afraid of getting mugged on the street, even living in a nice neighborhood. My parents work hard for me to study, and today, even with a good job, I feel like my money buys fewer and fewer things. This feeling is real. And let me tell you one thing, this does not happen only here in Brazil. If we take a plane right now and go to the neighborhoods around Paris, in France, or travel to the interior of the United States, there where the big old factories used to be, the conversation on the street will be exactly the same. The whole world is living this. The so-called middle class is shrinking and being squeezed. Let's start by undoing a lie that makes a lot of people angry. The issue of taxes, which is the money we pay to the government. It is common for us to think, gosh, I pay tax just like a super rich person and receive nothing back. Actually, reality is a little crueler. Proportionally, that is, comparing with how much each one earns, the middle class pays more tax than the super rich. And this is a worldwide plan. It is not just a Brazil thing. There is a famous case that explains this perfectly. Warren Buffett, who is one of the biggest investors in the world, a billionaire from the United States, went so far as to show everyone that his secretary paid a portion of his salary in taxes larger than the portion he paid on his fortune. How is this possible? Simple. The tax laws of the world weigh heavy on the salary, on those who live by work and sweat. Meanwhile, capital, which is invested money, corporate profits, the cash that yields on its own is full of discounts and rules to pay less. In Europe, something similar happens. Of course, the public hospitals and schools work better, but the tax on purchases and on those who live on a salary is extremely heavy. Meanwhile, gigantic global companies place their offices in Ireland or Luxembourg, which are places with extremely low taxes and pay almost nothing. So when you feel like you are carrying the whole weight on your back while the owner of the party does not help carry even a stool, you are right. The diagnosis is exactly this. The super rich anywhere on the planet help with very little if we compare it to the absurd amount of money they have. If you also think this bill does not add up and want more people to wake up to this unfair reality, do the following. Leave a like and leave the hype right now. This shows that you are on the side of those who work and want the truth and not on the side of those who only profit. Another point that messes a lot with our pride is the issue of effort and moving up in life. We are proud to say that our parents came from the bottom, were poor and won. This is beautiful. But we need to be honest and look at how things work today. The so-called American dream, for example, in the numbers, is stalled. Research shows that the chance of a child born poor in the United States reaching the top of wealth has dropped a lot in the last 50 years. The ladder is being pulled up. If we look at China, which lifted 800 million people out of extreme poverty, we see the same glass ceiling that is an invisible limit. They created a giant new middle class, but there is a registration system there. Basically, millions of workers who left the countryside and went to the cities to manufacture the products we use do not have access to the same hospitals and schools that the people who already lived in the city have, the system needs these people working cheaply for the country to grow. It is a global pyramid. For there to be a comfortable top and a middle that consumes products, the base of the pyramid needs to be wide, cheap, and unfortunately exploited. And here enters a pain very common to families nowadays. The disappearance of the domestic worker, or that person who cleaned the house for a cheap price. Many people remember with nostalgia. Ah, my mother worked outside but always had someone to help at home. Today I cannot afford it. This generates a frustration, but let's look at it from another angle. The fact that it is difficult and expensive to hire someone to clean your house is actually a sign that the country is evolving. It might hurt the pocket, but it is a sign that the poorest people are improving their lives. If you go to Sweden, Norway, or Germany, having a daily domestic worker is a millionaire's thing. The middle class of Europe cleans its own bathroom, cooks its own dinner, and takes care of the children with the help of public daycares, of course. Why? Because the difference between rich and poor is smaller, and the work hour of any person is worth a lot of money. There isn't a multitude of desperate people willing to work all day in exchange for a plate of food and bus money. In Latin America, we got used to bad habits because of our past and the giant difference between rich and poor. We thought it was normal to have another person serving us for a very low value. As the economy tries to improve and the poorest people gain a minimum of dignity or government help, their work gets more expensive. We are changing, even if slowly, from an economy where people served almost for free to an economy where everyone's service has value. And this leads us to talk about who is paying the bill for the things we buy today. We complain about the bakery owner who raises the price of bread, but we forget that the small merchant is also being crushed. The owner of the snack bar, of the neighborhood shop, be it here, in Madrid, in Spain, or in New York, is suffocated by giant companies. Amazon, the big retail stores, and the big technology companies are so big that they manage to sell cheap and operate with profits that the small merchant cannot keep up with. The small business owner of the middle class has turned often into just someone who runs all the risks for the big companies to make money. And who is at the tip of this chain? The so-called modern slavery. It is not an exaggeration to speak like this. In China, the people who work with technology speak of the 996 culture, working from 9 in the morning to 9 at night, 6 days a week. In the United States and in Europe, the gig economy exploded. The delivery and transport apps, there are people working 12, 14 hours a day without rights to vacation or a 13th salary just to pay rent and eat. There are employees of large delivery companies in the United States who work all day and need to receive food stamps from the government to not go hungry. The world system keeps this multitude of people surviving on the limits so that the product arrives cheap at our door and the profit goes up for the business owners. To finish, we need to talk about knowing your place in the game. The biggest mistake the middle class makes is thinking it is part of the elite, of the super rich. It is a mistake that happens all over the world. If you earn well, have a car of the year, and live in a nice neighborhood, you live well, no doubt. But if we do the math, the distance in money between you and a homeless person is infinitely smaller than the distance between you and a billionaire. Aristotle, thinker back in ancient Greece, already said that the middle class is who defines the balance. History shows that when the middle class joins the economic elite thinking it is equal to them, we tend towards governments that increase inequality, cut social protections, and in the end, the middle class itself loses out. We saw this in Europe after the crisis of 2008. Now, when the middle class understands that it is in the same boat as the majority of the population and presses for quality public services, health, education, security, as happens in the countries of Northern Europe, society becomes more stable, safer, and fairer for everyone. The system is designed to throw the bill on our backs. We pay high taxes, pay for private school, pay for health insurance, and get angry at those who receive help from the government to eat, it is exactly this that the model wants. For the middle class to look down with anger at the poorest and forget to look up, asking questions to the super rich. We need to stop fighting for crumbs and understand that the real concentration of wealth, the one that really locks the economy and prevents real development, is on a floor much higher up, where we don't even have access to the elevator. After seeing all this, tell me the truth. In the next crisis, will you continue fighting for crumbs with those who are below you? Or will you start looking up and charging the bill to those who are in the penthouse? Leave in the comments, look down or look up. I want to know who got the message. So if you want to help us force the door of this elevator and make this information arrive up there, leave a like and leave the hype. Let's understand the game together so we are no longer pieces on their board.
Nelle sole sul gossip che muoversi